Good morning, everybody. It's early morning here in the sketch cave, and I have my morning cup of coffee. So I talked last time about how to tell the difference between your personal style and making bad art, and I'm gonna try to answer this as quickly as possible because uh, I don't have a lot of time. So, what's the difference between like how you draw feet and you're only drawing feet that way because you kind of don't know what the hell you're doing? And one of the things that I could give a straight answer is you just got to know the difference. I mean, you obviously know when you don't know how to draw feet. Like, I don't know how to draw feet, so I'm going to draw them this way. So if you're doing that, then that's the easiest way to know. What if you don't know? What if you just think that it's how feet are, and that's how I draw them? And people are looking at it like you don't even know what you're doing. You're just making some stuff up because you maybe were redrawing feet out of a comic book or from some anime or I don't know, something else, and it's sort of this weird parody of what you've seen that you've then incorporated into your art scheme because you haven't learned it yet. How can you develop the eye to know the difference if there's some disconnect? And that can happen. Um, One of the benefits to my childhood was that I was left alone to figure out everything. Like my father was not someone who um, explained things at all. He would just look at me and say, "You know what to do," and I would be like, "I don't know what you're talking about." So I had to pay attention and uh, not just analyze anything I was doing, but then like be able to adjust and act on it quickly because my father would fucking kick my. I mean, would he beat me? No, he wouldn't beat me, but he was very. It was like being in a prison in a lot of ways. It was a lot of, what? It was like boot camp. Just imagine being in boot camp for your entire childhood, and that's a lot like what it was. So I wanted to avoid the least amount of negative attention, you know. So what I would do is, let's say I had this issue when I was 18. I drew hair in very weird ways, and it was because I couldn't understand how to draw hair as a shape. I didn't understand how to say that when I was 18, that I could find hair shapes. I just knew that there was hair, and hair looked like a bunch of strands. But when you drew a bunch of strands, it looked like spaghetti heads. Like, remember, for those that are old enough, there was this Play-Doh Fun Factory, and you could get like a little head, and you could squeeze the Play-Doh out of a head, and it would look like every individual hair was a strand of Play-Doh. It's pretty bad. Um, but every now and then I'd see an artist where it made sense visually. Like I could see it in anime. Like I used to watch the Dirty Pair cartoon, and they had this shape of hair. And John Bogdanov was drawing Superman in the early 90s, and he had this sort of spaghetti noodle hair, but it was like the thick pappardelle strands of pasta. Um, and I would draw hair in these weird like shapes, like just S's, that waves that would connect. And there'd be somewhere between like a pillow cushion and vertex points. It was weird. And so I knew that if I had to draw Superman, I couldn't fake that hair. I was like, I didn't know what I was doing. So I could force myself to realize that I knew I wasn't, you know, doing it well because I would have a limitation when I would go to draw something else. So if you're wondering, you know, if you're doing something out of style versus doing something out of a lack of knowledge. So you've stylized something to make up the difference. Is you try drawing something completely different than you try drawing it. If all you do is draw cute mermaid women, you know, or if all you draw is, you know, giant muscular dudes, try drawing a dog. Try drawing a robot. Try drawing a tree. You know, try rotating characters in ways. If you're drawing everything straight on, draw them in 3/4. I mean, you gotta, like, I believe before you even have the talent, you gotta develop the eye. Because there's only so much talent, I think, we can develop. I mean, every artist is gonna have a limitation. If you read a book or, you know, listen to someone say you have no limitations, you have limitations. You want to find out real quick, step into an octagon or start running, you know? Everyone's going to stop at some point. The Olympic gold winners are going to stop running at some point. They have limitations. Everyone has limitations. You know, limitations aren't weaknesses. They just they're an edge to your box. You know, and I know like we have this saying in this country, uh, think outside the box. And I think too much thinking outside the box means you're never going to get anything done. You know, you're not going to be aware of the construct that you're in. Imagine outside the box. Develop within a volume. Develop within the box. Work within your limitations, you know. Imagine greater. Develop the eye to imagine. See where I'm going with this? Develop the eye to see beyond your limits, you know, and then skirt those edges, and then whatever you can do, work within it, you know, to your strengths, but also put a little bit into your weakness. Put, you know, push. For me, the way I got around to this was to go back to shapes and shape play and learning how shapes are, you know, drawn and designed and the best I could, you know, within the life I had to live. Uh, you know, whether it was in the army or when I was working at Kinko's, going to college full time, having to animate in my car, having to deal with the expectations of the people who were grading me. You know, when I wanted to do some crazy animation, I'd have to just sit there animating a dog running. You know, like I would want to do something with less frames and more creativity, and they'd be sitting there making me do 24 frames of a fucking dog running, you know? And that's another conversation. I should write that one down. Like, you know, working with other people's, I want to say limits. Is it limits? Working with other people's limits or expectations. I'd like to go back and talk to myself in 2002, 2001 about how to do that without getting angry and giving yourself, you know, uh, early heart attacks. I mean, I didn't ever have a heart attack, but you know, like unnecessary stress on that level. But so the short answer for how to tell the difference between your personal style and bad art is you know when you're faking it. Do you know? You know. You know. You know you're drawing faces because that's all you can do. So if you don't know, or if you want to confirm that's true, just whatever you're doing now, do something completely different. If you draw characters, draw environments. If you draw environments, draw characters. If you know, draw. If all you draw is organics, cute women, cute dudes, draw cars, draw a motorcycle, draw a gun, rotate it. You know, you'll find your limits fairly quickly. It's rare every artist can juggle every little bit. I mean, that's why in a production, it's not one artist making an anime or making a video game. Generally speaking, there's multiple people. You know, obviously the indie stuff, it's one person. Um, companies hire you based on a need and your strength in that area. So there's going to be some form of specialization in your life. The trick is, I have this rule, right? And it's like this. Because I've always experienced having to do two jobs, an art job and my personal art or freelance or whatever I'm doing at home, right? Um, and even if you have a normal job, whatever. But if you're doing art for people and then, you got your personal time, you want to know how to fill that void without going crazy, is whatever you do at work, do something different at home. So if you're spending all day animating and doing pretty art, when you come home, make something more aggressive and and do something completely different. And then you'll find that solutions you arrive at home with that other stuff will help you to grow and improve the work you're creating at work, even if it's a completely different style. Uh, I made the mistake a few years into my freelancing career of trying to, like, if I was doing t-shirts, I'm going to do t-shirts at home because I know how to do them, right? But you ever eat the same thing every day for like for a week? Try it 2 weeks, try it 3 weeks. If you eat the same thing every day, your body's going to get sick beyond what you're going to get fed up with it. You just can't take it. You got to vary it up. Um, so for me, even though like right now I kind of do whatever, what you'll see is I'll do color pencil, and then I'll do some digital, lots of details, and then I'll do watercolors Aussie, and then I'll do some pen sketches. Like I'll put some prints up and offer some sketches with it, just so I'm doing something different. And then I'll go back, and the one thing that I don't have in that mix right now is like my comic book work, storytelling. And there's mix of this and then this and then this and then this, and this little rotation, helps keep the mind active, helps keep you growing as an artist. I think helps me keeps me growing. Ah, so what else? I watched this video. GDC, Game Developers Conference. It's this thing they do out in San Jose every year, where game developers show up and they network and they do panels and they discuss how they made games. And so GDC's been recording these lectures for years, and they had this website. It was a fucking nightmare to traverse, but they put up a YouTube channel a while ago, and they've been over the past few years have been updating it regularly with their different lectures. And I've been looking at this one from a game called Guilty Gear Xrd. If you aren't aware of Guilty Gear Xrd, it's a 2D fighting game using 3D assets that looks like an anime, made by a company called Arc System Works. I became a fan of theirs back in the early 2000s when they made this game. They made the first Guilty Gear on the Dreamcast, and I imported it because it looked like the Capcom games that I loved, and Capcom seemed at the time to be moving away, and they have since pretty much abandoned that 2D look completely. But they Arc System Works made a couple years ago Guilty Gear Xrd, which took their 2D stuff and translated to 3D while still looking and feeling 2D, but it's pretty amazing. So there's a video. It's called Guilty Gear Xrd's Art Style, the X Factor between 2D and 3D. And it features the technical artists of Junya Motomura. It's fascinating. It's fascinating. They modeled the entire game. It's inspiring because they modeled the entire game using Softimage software for the character models, and not versus Maya or 3D Max. And it had to do with the way they used normals to render the cell shade, and every frame in the game, so it's 3D, but every frame in the game is hand created, so it's more like stop motion animation using 3D models. And it was the only way to give it that 2D imperfection. And part of the conversation is about how imperfection is what gives you that 2D feel versus the 3D, perfect smooth frames, 24 frames per second characters, and none of the frames are interpolated or in between the in-betweens. So if you have a character who's in a ready position and then they go to a fighting position, they don't let this 3D software just create the in-betweens. They have to manually do each frame as they would with anime. Except, check this out, they only have 3 modelers, and those modelers model, light, and animate each character. So you really got 3 people building the entire character base, the modeling, and the animations, versus the 100 you would need, say, in an anime production. However, because everything's handcrafted, right? It takes time. So the modeling alone is 2 months. And the vertices, there's a lot of complex things they do with vertexes, and the animation is another 2 months. So you're looking at 4 months per character, split up between 3 people. What's the math on that? 4 months per character. So you can do 3 characters a year times 3 people. I mean, right? I'm not good with this. So yeah, if it's 4 months per character, you can do 3 per person times 3. It's 9 characters a year. So you're looking at, at that rate, you probably need 2 years to build the game. But they're releasing the new Dragon Ball Fighter Z Arc System Works. So their second iteration at this tech, it looks phenomenal. I mean, you want to know what inspires me as an artist? Non-photorealistic rendering. Love it. Like the Avengers trailer for Infinity War came out yesterday, and I never read the comics. Thanos, Infinity Gauntlet, Crisis. I didn't care, but Capcom made this game called Marvel Superheroes, and Marvel Superheroes was about collecting the Infinity Stones, or the Infinity Gems, I think they were called at the time, and fighting Thanos. And so and it was like playing an anime version of like Joe Mad's version of Marvel characters, and he had Spider-Man and Captain America and Venom and Hulk, and I was my favorite game, in the mid-90s. I just was blown away by it. I've never cared for the realistic Mortal Kombat. I'm not into Injustice. It's not my thing. I like non-photorealistic stuff. I like the fantasy, and so these games, they inspire me. I love looking at every frame. I mean, when you look at every frame in Guilty Gear Xrd, like, you can see the artist touch, even though it's 3D. Even though it's 3D, you can see like the hands scale, the faces when they get closer, they get bigger or smaller. Nothing is being left to the computer to figure out, like the lighting. Every lighting on the faces, all the vertexes are manually crafted, so the shadows fall where they're going to look right. They don't let the computer figure it out. And in this GDC video, he turns on and off the models to show you what it would look like otherwise. But yeah, so I see this Infinity War trailer and I'm reminded of Marvel Superheroes and how fucking horrible the Capcom fighting games have gotten. This new Marvel versus Capcom Infinite is everything I hate. Self-shadowed, generic design. Blech. It's like buffet food, It all pretty much tastes the same. You just shove as much sauce on it as you can, and In this case, with the Marvel versus Capcom Infinite, it's like throw as much effects and bloom lighting on it as you can and get the game out. So whatever. Um, as for the Infinity War trailer, I thought it was amazing. We got 20 minutes here. We got 4 minutes. I thought it was amazing. I'm not the biggest Marvel guy. I came to Marvel when I was a kid because of the artists like Todd McFarlane and Jim Lee and Eric Larson and Dale Keown, Mark Silvestri, like the Image guys. And before there was Image. And I had a second interest in Marvel with Marvel versus Marvel superheroes, and then the Capcom fighting games like Children of the Atom, X-Men versus Street Fighter, Marvel versus Capcom. I've worked on Marvel merchandise since before Iron Man 1, since Spider-Man 3. And it's just been amazing to watch them basically build a comic book movie studio and the same design that Amblin Entertainment from the 80s and George Lucas and Spielberg, what they were kind of doing. And with that little bit of like, Pixar and Disney touch where they're kind of like changing the way business is done. And to see it all sort of coalesce into this one movie, whether you're a fan of the characters or not, it's irrelevant to me. Like, you just look at 18 films, and they're not getting worse with every film. I think audience expectations are like raising. I don't think this one was as good as the other. No, 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 no. Like, you got to go back to what it was like to endure Spider-Man 3 and the Ghost Rider film and the Ghost Rider sequel and to watch what they've done. And so, as a fan of just how things are made and feel good success stories, I mean, the Marvel Studios, the movie studios, pretty impressive. And it has the Avengers theme song, right? Which I love. I love theme songs, man. They got to bring theme songs back. You hear that little Alan Silvestri Avengers theme song thing, and you get that that Rocky feel, right? You want to get up and fight some aliens and shit, do battle. So I had a good time with that. I'm really impressed and really wish they had just gave Henry Cavill a beard in Justice League. Seeing Captain America with the beard looks great, doesn't it? I mean, Henry Cavill had a beard in Man of Steel. Why couldn't they just, instead of CGing out the mustache, just gave Superman a beard? Instead of a mullet, give him a beard. Everyone would have been cool with that. But whatever. And I think Avengers Infinity War comes out the same month as Star Wars Han Solo. May's gonna be killer. I'm gonna have to budget. It's gonna be like 4 trips to the movie theater. If the movies are great, I'm gonna see both twice. That's $120 worth of fucking movies right there for me. So might have to do a commission. All right, everybody, it's the 23-minute mark, and I am ready to get some stuff done. So I got some freelance I got to work on today, and we got some color pencil work we're gonna stream. And that's that. Let me know what you're working on. I'm interested. Other than that, good morning, everybody. Let's get to work.